Perry Gruber from Copiosis. I'm the founder. We're having some technical difficulties today, so things aren't working the way we were hoping they would work. Um, Maybe it's this tie I put on. I'm
Oh,
changing it up and it's messing up the structure. So I'm Perry Gruber. Welcome to the show. This is the Copiosis live stream we call Devil's Advocate. Thankfully, no one's watching live, so not many people are going to see this mistake. Maybe even TC, our behind the screens guy, can cut this out, this little
yeah,
mess up that we had. But
little
anyway,
mess up.
TC, looks like TC just came on board. So yeah, this is Devil's
Hi,
Advocate.
PC.
I'm Perry Gruber, the founder of Copiosis, and with me I have my co-host, or actually I'm her co-host. This is Jill Dell, the Devil's Advocate. And it's funny because we go back and forth about this idea of Devil's Advocate. Like, is it evil? Is it good? Are you doing good
Right, yeah.
for
Hmm.
Copiosis this way or not? I think this is good that Jill is entertaining these really hard questions that we're answering. So it's all good stuff. This is the show where we talk about the hard questions related to the Copiosis transition and implementation plan. Jill has something she wants to say, but before we get to that, let me just say to the people who are watching, whether live or on the recording, that if you want to know more about Copiosis, you can go to this website. And here we talk all about the innovation and the transition and how we're implementing the transition plan to make Copiosis a reality. And then here, this website takes you to our budget where you can see where we are spending, where we are putting all the money that people are giving us to make Copiosis a reality. And to be honest with you, it's not a whole lot of money that people are giving us, but we are using it, every dollar, to forward the Copiosis implementation plan. And if you want to become a patron of Copiosis for as little as $1 a day or as much as $25 a day, you $25 a day, $25 a month, or $1 a month, you can go to this website here and become a patron. And then lastly, if you haven't already, be sure to click the subscribe button and ring that bell so that you are constantly in the know when we upload new content to the YouTube channel. All right, so Jill, hi.
Yes.
You wanted
Good
to,
morning or
good morning,
afternoon.
good afternoon, something.
Yeah,
It's morning somewhere and it's afternoon somewhere
it is
else.
morning somewhere, I guess.
Why don't we? So you said you, as usual, I should say, you have something you wanted to kick off this show with. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so I'm gonna apologize first because this quote that I'm going to read to you like inspired me to write down a whole lot of thoughts that I had around that quote. So, and I wrote it down. So I'm going to be doing some reading. So I may not be,
That's
looking at
okay.
you.
Is it from Martin Luther King since it's MLK Day?
No, I know. Wait, that would
We
be
should have.
really cool.
We
But
don't think ahead, do we?
I got this last week.
That's
So
okay. That's okay.
it just was something I picked up on and that had been on my mind since I read it.
No
And I
problem.
sat down yesterday and spent some time really focused on that.
All right. Well,
So this is a quote by Stacy Martin. And she, I assume it's a she, says, I adore those who are brave enough to strip themselves down to their bare soul, to stand in front of the whole world wearing nothing but their unique truth without fear. I mean, to me, that is the essence of life,
could
right?
not agree more.
And
Absolutely.
and so it made me think about my own unique truth, core of my being, my soul, whatever thing you want to call that. And um, the journey that I've been on to not only discover what that is, but finally truly embracing it. So, uh, my unique truth is that I am driven to solve problems because I have this desire just to make things better.
Yeah.
whatever I'm involved in,
Yeah.
I look for ways to do this thing better or make this better for others around me, help them do this thing, whatever it is that
Yeah.
I'm involved in.
Yeah.
So, for most people, I'm considered old at 66, but it's taken most of my life to understand my truth. I've had inklings of it throughout my life, my true self. Um, and upon reflection, I see that without an understanding, even without an understanding, I've felt the most joyful, the most rewarded, and the most fulfilled when the actions that I took solved problems and made things better. So that's how I know that that's the core of me,
Yeah.
because that's when I feel the most joy.
Yep.
I feel the most rewarded.
Yep.
I feel the most fulfilled. So around that, I wanted to just share a little bit about, what took me so long, just in hope that maybe a person out there can avoid this long journey of discovery and find yourself, um, as they say. Um, so um, I want to share how amazing my life is because I am living my truth. And by living that truth, my life is joyful, rewarding, and fulfilling every day. And I want the same. I want other people to have this same joy by following their truth,
Yep.
discovering their truth,
Yeah.
and living their life in alignment with that.
Yeah.
So basically, what took me so long is just the minutia of life, right? Like, growing up, you're just growing up. And then you have relationships and marriage and raising children and working to support yourself and your family and all the influence that you get of what is supposed to make you happy. If you got a house and you got a car and you got a good job and you got money in the bank and you can pay your bills and on, all that stuff that veils and fogs, what the core of you, right? So, you know, I was immersed in all of that up until about 10 years ago when my, children became completely independent and I dissolved my marriage. I was still working, but I was free to make my own decisions and to plot my own course.
Yeah.
So my course was to remove myself as much as possible from the minutia and discover who I was. Not me as the mom, not me as the wife, not me as the worker, but who am I really? Who am I? What do I really want? And what makes me happy? What really makes me happy? And I had to go through this process of putting aside a lot of beliefs that I had that clouded my thinking, that oppressed my true self. And the only outside influence that I allowed, other than, having to work and that, was whatever I felt interested in. What I allowed that inner being of myself to explore these things. I somehow knew that I wanted to solve problems, but I didn't feel educated about what the problems really were and which problem I should focus on that would satisfy that need to make, life, world better, whatever. And, apparently I'm a very slow learner because it took me years of self-discovery to be able to just, sort of rejoin the world and see how others, were seeing things from kind of my new perspective, you know. So, what I discovered is that I wanted to solve all the world's problems. My inner self would never be satisfied by just solving one problem. And so that's pretty like overwhelming. That's pretty
It can be.
like
Yeah.
I mean that just felt really overwhelming. Like how I've got to search for some way that you know how, so I started looking like how what thing might be possible that could solve maybe not all the problems, but at least a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I discovered copiosis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, and upon investigating this concept, this idea, the first thing that spoke to my soul, my inner self, my unique truth is the foundation and beauty of copiosis in that it not only allows each individual the time to reflect and discover their unique truths, it rewards them for fulfilling their true self.
That's right.
And, it's a social economic system that removes the oppression of the soul, the spirit, the passion of individuals, that provides and supports real freedom, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness,
Yeah.
this idea of democracy that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So I could immediately see how doing that, allowing the individual to pursue their true self, would remove innumerable obstacles
Yeah.
to solving problems and creating a better world. Giving power to the people without interference from power structures that now seem to control our lives was it for me. It was my answer. So that's why, I'm doing what I'm doing.
And what is
And
it? What is it that you're doing?
I am participating in what I know could be the most amazing transformation
Yeah.
and evolution of
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So, all that's my, journey in a nutshell. That's why I'm participating. That's why I'm promoting, because it's in alignment with my truth, with my desire, and because I have joined this group, I cannot tell you how my perceptions have changed just over these last few months. I've been growing to this,
Yeah.
but so many perceptions have changed. And if all you did was join our group, you could get a feel of those what those perceptions are and how, why all of us are so excited and so loving and respectful and caring of each other. It's just it's just a beautiful thing.
Well, there,
And
there's a lot to talk about here, Jill.
I want to say one more thing.
Sure.
So you asked me about, like my thoughts on copiosis, and you know, if all I do is inspire one person, excuse me, sorry, to discover and embrace their own true self by sharing this idea of copiosis, then I know the world is a better place.
That's true.
And here's my question. Could it possibly be, people talk about what's the purpose of life? Could it possibly be that the purpose of life is to discover your own true self and be brave enough to live your life in harmony with that spirit?
Yeah. So you've said a lot in it, and there's a
I
lot.
said a lot.
There's
Sorry,
a
I know.
That's okay. There's a lot to talk about in
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
you said. I mean, we can talk about everything from the nature of beliefs and why some people believe that copiosis is not possible, and
yes,
that having nothing to do with whether or not it's possible. It only has to do with the person's belief. Or
exactly.
we could talk about the joy that people are feeling who are working in copiosis, and talk about how some people outside, when they see people as joyful as we are, how they think we're a cult and why that is, why they think
Yeah,
we're a cult. They can We can talk about passions and how some people don't know their true self. All they know
exactly.
is what they've been taught. And so it's difficult. How difficult will it be in the transition for people who
Hmm.
don't know what their passion is or what their true self is? And we can
Okay.
also talk about, there's a lot. We can also talk about the
It's
the
endless.
yeah, it is endless, and it's
It is
joyfully
endless.
endless, because everything we can talk
Yeah,
about has to do with these two things. It's like the nature of
yeah,
copiosis and how it converts a current system that's based on rewards and punishment to a new system that's basically based on joyful living.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I okay, so um okay, so I looking from the place where I am, right, and seeing, you know, um, the riots and the destruction and
Yeah.
all this stuff going on, and then the invasion of the Capitol building and all of that, and all this feedback of what their perceptions are around
Yeah.
all this. Um, m- this is might be unusual or different than other people's perceptions, but my perception is, although um, I see the destruction as evidence of people's um, desperation and frustration and negative energy
That's right.
because they feel so powerless
Powerless. That's right.
to make the changes that they want.
That's right.
So when these people invaded the House of Congress, marched through their doors, and invaded and messed up their space, their sanctity of their home, I saw that as no different than, I saw that as being very democratic. I mean, as pushing the will, we the people, right through their front door, right into their hearts. Even if they made those people feel fearful, you know, the outcome of that might not be a bad thing. Maybe they
Well,
should be, you know. I
well,
mean,
it's
I don't. think that that's a good emotion. I'm
No,
not
no, no,
saying
I'm not. So I was going to agree with you and say that what we saw at the Capitol is not much different than what we saw in the United States with Black Lives Matter and all of the violence
exactly. Yeah,
and property damage that we saw there. Both sides
right.
are
Both
experiencing
sides.
what you say. They're experiencing
Hmm.
powerlessness, and
Yes,
anyone pushed to the point of extreme powerlessness, as
yes,
long as it's not chronic, will resort to violence.
exactly,
If it becomes
exactly.
if their violence becomes powerless, like if even through violence they can't do anything, then they get into
Right.
this state where they don't do anything. They just kind of
Yes,
crumble into depression and helplessness.
exactly,
But
exactly,
what we saw
exactly.
on January 6th was an expression of powerlessness, and this it's the same
Yes,
thing that we saw when Black Lives Matter was protesting all
exactly,
over the country.
exactly.
So
That's how
no,
I perceive all of that is this
yeah,
same, the same energies, in the same emotions, the same desires, the same frustrations are evident in both places, in both sides. And what the
yes,
beauty of it for me
yes,
is that people are waking up
yes,
more and more and more and recognizing that we, the people, need to take back some level of power, some measure of power.
yeah. The trouble with that statement, Jill, is that we, the people, have never had power. Ever since the Constitution was
Exactly.
drafted,
Ex-
it was for landed, rich people of
exactly.
light brown skin. And so
Right.
it's interesting, everything that you're saying. If you look at the Copiosis logo, and I'm speaking to the audience right now, if you look at the
Yeah.
Copiosis logo, it it has arrows pointing into the center. And it's kind of like what Jill is saying here. The aim ultimately of Copiosis is to orient individuals to look inside themselves and find the source of their success in there, not to look
Right.
at the world around them and see what others are doing and do what those people are doing,
Exactly.
but to
Right.
identify your own passions and your own joy and live your life
Yes.
from there. And meanwhile, while you're doing that important work, you're being rewarded for all of the ways that you touch other human beings in the planet. That's what Copiosis is all about. And so it's interesting. Oh, it's time to take a break. So this is a
Okay.
good segue.
Let's take a break. Good
Yeah,
time.
I'll segue real quickly to for those of you that are watching live, you're watching the Copiosis live stream called Devil's Advocate. Sounds like we're taking a little bit of a departure in the sense that we're not asking and answering questions, but we're talking about some real deep philosophical aspects of Copiosis. If you're interested in finding out more about the innovation, our transition plan, and how we're implementing our transition plan, you can go to this website here and find out all about that information. If you're curious about how we're spending other people's money who are giving us money to make the Copiosis innovation a reality, you can go to this second website here, and there we have a bunch of information that talks about where we spend the money. And then lastly, if you haven't already, I'm going to ask you to click that subscribe button on YouTube here. And don't forget to click the bell, because when you do so, you will be alerted to all the live streams that we have scheduled. And you'll also be alerted to any other videos that we post. And by the way, this Saturday, last Saturday, we had a great live stream with our political strategist, Christopher Hatton.
Yeah.
We talked about the insurrection and the fallout from that. And then this coming Saturday, we have another live stream with Christopher where we're going to be talking about the 7Ds, the process, the meta process by which copiosis and other movements that are facilitating copiosis are happening. So join us. That's going to be this coming Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube. All right. So
Yeah.
Jill, yeah. So it's like people people think that people who think they understand copiosis think that it's just an economic system, but it's far more than that. It's actually
Yes.
it's a people development system. It's a people freeing system where people can be freed of the tyranny of capitalism.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and
Well,
communism and socialism. Yeah,
well, let's really define what all of those structures are
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Is money.
Money and control. That's right.
Money and control.
Yeah,
It's you know, capitalism, it was a very good economic measure, but what we have, and it was based on free markets. Well, a free market doesn't bail out a giant corporation because it's too big to fail. I mean, that's,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if you start really examining how capitalism as it is evolved and what it is today, all of the counter balances for abuse have been uh, propagandized away.
Well, well, let's
Well, regulated away,
so
or
it's
the,
interesting. It's interesting when you examine capitalism because a lot of people who support capitalism, like fervently support it, argue that if it wasn't for government, capitalism would happen just fine. But the problem with the profit motive within capitalism is that
yeah,
because people are oriented to profit making, the the
yeah,
value
the
or
decisions they
contribution,
make.
yeah, the decisions they make are oriented to maximizing profit, not maximizing prosperity. And so
Right, exactly, different.
slavery, for example, was a big boon to capitalism,
Yeah,
but it did not contribute very much to overall prosperity. The pursuit of gold back in the early pre-colonial days was a big boom to capitalism. But as we
right.
all know, colonialism destroyed many, virtually all,
Yes,
indigenous
yeah,
societies and took their lands too.
yes,
And so
yes, exactly.
there's no such thing as true capitalism on the planet because of this. That's why
Yeah,
government has to step in and regulate it because on its own, it would be disastrous for the planet. And even with regulation, as we're seeing, capitalism has found a way to run around the
sure.
regulation by
Yeah,
capturing the regulation. So now you have capitalists
yes,
in control of
yeah,
the regulated bodies. And so
right,
capitalism
right.
just gets its way. And this, to be
Yeah.
honest, Jill, the same goes for communism. Vladimir Putin
Oh, yeah,
is
yeah,
basically a
exactly.
dictator, and China the same way with
Yes,
communism,
yes,
and to a
yes.
large degree the same thing goes with socialism. It's just a
Yes,
softer version of capitalism. So
right,
all of
exactly.
these things, all of these isms need to go into the dust heap of history because
Right.
none of them allow a human being to do what you said at the beginning of the show, which is lead their lives from their passions and find joy.
Well, I okay, so I want to back up a little bit on that statement. What you're saying is that um, now that they don't allow a person. Okay, so I would say that um,
I
there's
think
that is not completely true.
I think I know where you're going. Yeah, go on.
Because whether you are okay, like people who survived concentration camps, many of them did so because of what they were telling themselves
That's
in their
correct.
head,
That's correct.
and how they continued to live in the to live in the in their inner self,
That's correct. Yes.
right? So regardless of the oppression that is placed on you, you can find, peace and joy and all of those other things that are valuable to life, regardless of the exterior powers. And as a matter of fact, the more people that sort of embrace that and join in that just the energy that they create in their own little world and in the expanding world around them, then pushes that oppression aside, I
That's right.
guess.
That's
Right?
exactly, that's 100% correct. But sometimes, a lot of times, have you ever been outside? Have you ever been inside an air conditioned house and then
Hmm.
you go to and it's hot outside, like it's 90 or 100 degrees outside, and then you go
Hmm.
outside and you get in your car, and in your car it's 120 degrees because your windows were rolled up, and you get in your car and you can't be joyful while you're roasting in your car. Sometimes,
No,
sometimes the
yeah,
external
yeah,
circumstances get so oppressive,
exactly, exactly.
even the most centered individual will lose their shit.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And so, and
But
if that happens,
once you
hang on. If that happens chronic, if that happens enough time, then you, and you're paying it and you're looking at that instead of doing what you're saying, which is focusing on your inner being. If that happens a number of times consistently, you kind of habitually stay in that disempowered spot. And that's
right,
what we're seeing today. Is you're absolutely right, Jill. People can
yeah,
find joy under any circumstances. The problem is for most people, because they don't know what you're talking about, they're not trained in it, and because they've been trained in the other way, which is to look
yeah,
outside and see and adopt their beliefs from outside, they just
right,
can't find what you're talking about. And so they look out
right,
to the world and they see the suffering, they focus on that, and they get more of that. So you're absolutely right, Jill. You're absolutely
right,
right.
yeah. But also it's, you know, what it's when you're uh, inundated with the indoctrination
Yes.
and the propaganda,
Yes.
and I mean we just have so much more data being fed to us now
Yeah.
that it's and that however you think that might, be affecting you, it's in your brain.
That's right.
It's still in your brain,
Yeah.
you know? And so, um, and I think the younger you are, the more those images and those things imprint on your brain, because it's the newer and fresher it is,
That's
the
right.
less resistance it has to these narratives, right?
That's right. That's right.
Because it's still, it's still it's gathering this data and, you know, putting it in these pockets here and there so that, this comes up, it can go to this pocket, and this comes up, just the way that we function as humans.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just
but
talking with I was just talking with some people on Twitter about this. So it's like, imagine you're a 35-year-old white guy and you've been told all of that time that if you work hard and play by the rules, you'll be successful. And so you've been
yes,
working hard, you've been playing by the rules. You didn't go to college because you didn't feel that was the right thing to do. Even though everyone was telling you to go to college, you just didn't feel like it was the right thing for you to do. And so now you're working at a pipe fitting shop, or maybe you're a construction person framing houses, and you're working your
yeah,
butt off, but you're not making very much money, and you're not saving very much money, and you have a family to feed, and you're bringing home barely enough money, but you're working your butt off. You're doing everything that people
yeah,
taught you to believe, and you're not successful.
exactly,
Meanwhile,
exactly,
you see this guy who's gone to Harvard or Yale or some other college, and now trades Bitcoin or stocks or something like that, and makes $1,000 in a day. That's going
yeah,
to cause you to get pretty freaking upset. It's like, how can that
right,
guy not work very hard and make all that money, and I'm working my ass off and I'm not making
yeah,
anything? This American dream is a lie. And that's what we're
yeah,
seeing, is the frustration and powerlessness of many
yes,
Americans, not just white Americans, many Americans who are
many,
frustrated with the fact that they've been basically sold a bunch of indoctrination and it's not working out for them. Yeah.
it's a pipe dream.
It's a pipe. It's a literal. It's funny. They call Copiosis a pipe dream, the critics of Copiosis, but they don't realize they're
Yeah,
actually living a pipe dream.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And it's not to, I mean, this is what we have. So we have to live it
yeah,
until we have something different.
yeah.
And so what is interesting to me is uh, the reluctance to even, like, the way that discussions and conversations go these days is uh, like appalling to me. Like, you know, Pete. Okay, so I listened to a guy that did a recover of The Sounds of Silence by
Sure.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah,
And to me, that silence is the silence of all of the people that just have given up even saying anything. Because if you say something, if you criticize this way, oh, you're a Trump supporter and you're an idiot. And if you support it this way, oh, you're a liberal and a socialist and you're just a big commie. And,
mm,
just these horrible labels and, this division. But what I'm starting to see is people making an attempt to be more respectful,
yeah,
at least a little bit more
yeah,
respectful,
yeah,
and not as critical of each other,
yeah,
and maybe just engaging in conversations and putting aside your preconceived notions of what's what,
yeah. If
which
people,
is beautiful.
it is beautiful, and if people could put aside their preconceived notions about everything, especially the
Yeah,
world around them, they would see more of what you're talking about. I mean, one of the reasons I think you're seeing the changes in people's attitudes toward one another is because of your own releasing of preconceptions, your own releasing of beliefs that had you see the world in a certain way. And
right.
that what's interesting is almost everyone who actively participates in the Copiosis implementation plan has these kinds of shifts because you just can't, you will lose you will lose you will lose enthusiasm for copiosis if you do not change your beliefs about what's possible, because copiosis is going to happen. But if you don't
It
believe
is
that,
happening.
yes, it is happening, and if you don't believe it's happening, you can't see the evidence of it happening.
Right.
but
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
everybody who is working on a regular basis to I want to get my words right, to usher in, to allow the happening to happen. The people who are working on a daily basis to allow the happening to happen are seeing the evidence showing up everywhere, and not just
Mhm.
evidence born of our own hands. It's like this group over
Exactly.
here is doing it, and this group over there is doing it, and that
Yes.
team over there is
Yes.
doing it, and that technology over
That's right.
there is doing it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Like I said, when we were talking earlier today,
yeah.
the stars are already aligned.
That's right.
Stars are already aligned.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of the completion of that alignment,
It's
right?
hard to find the right words, right? Because it
Yeah,
is
it is
it
hard to find the right words.
yeah,
But I think copiosis could happen without us doing anything.
100% agree with you.
It could
100% agree.
happen without us doing anything.
Yeah.
It's just changing a mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the reason I see that and what got me like, yeah, yeah. Okay, have you ever heard of what they call van life? Like the
Yeah.
young and
Yeah.
old
Young and
people
old. Yeah.
just completely abandoning
Yes. Home
all the
ownership. Yep.
restrictions and the power over
Yep.
of capitalism
Yep.
and living this life that is supposed to bring us all this
Yeah.
happiness,
Yeah.
and just living your own life without any debt, without any you know government regulations over you or without a boss over you, with nobody over you, just yourself, and going wherever you want to go and doing
Yeah.
whatever you want to do and just being in nature and
Yeah.
being, surfing or skiing or doing whatever you want to do and supporting yourself by, you know, carving wood or making bowls or,
Or
whatever
writing.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and selling that in, places that you visit.
That's
And,
right. Yeah.
just and you don't need a lot to survive when you just need, gas for your van and some food and, you know, maybe a
Place
new
to go
shirt
potty.
once in a while or
Exactly.
when you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
secondhand at the Goodwill store and you don't
Yeah.
need to have a suit and tie and a collar and all
That's
of
right.
that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Some
So,
people, some people would say, Jill, and we're gonna have to take a break in about a minute, but some people will
okay.
say, well, if copiosis is happening anyway, why are you guys trying to do it? And my answer is, we're not trying to do it. We're having fun. We're playing with its emergence. We're playing between the gap that is our current reality and the reality created by copiosis. And in the play, we find
Yeah.
joy. And in the
Right.
joy, we find excitement. And that excitement adds energy to the emergence of the innovation. So it's not like we're trying to
That's
make anything happen. We're just playing
ex-
with it because it's
exactly.
fun. It's
Yeah.
fun
It
playing
is
with
fun.
you. Yeah,
It's fun.
it's
It's fun
fun.
playing with the ideas. It's fun playing with the
Yes.
possibilities. It's
Yes.
fun expressing it to others and seeing, their reaction and what they think of it. And
Yes.
and it, if they get excited about it, then it's even more fun. It's like,
Exactly.
it's like there's out my window here is the people that live behind me have a trampoline and there's four little boys playing on it, right?
Uh-huh.
And okay, so once in a while, there's some older boys and then, a couple of younger boys. And when I looked at it, I thought that the older boys were kind of bullying the younger ones and all of that. But when I really looked at it, they were just having fun.
Yeah.
They were just like, yeah, they'd push the little boys down or whatever, but uh, the little boys didn't seem to mind or care, and they were having fun and just
Mm-hmm.
as much fun as the big guys. And
Mm-hmm.
and then they were just, my perception was one thing, and what was really happening was something completely
There
different,
you go.
right?
That's the thing.
And
Perception is
and
everything.
so when they're just being boys.
Yeah.
That's what boys do,
Yeah.
That's the kind of interactions that they find joyful.
That's
And
right.
who am I to judge, right?
Let's take a quick
Um,
break because we're a little bit over.
okay.
So if you this is your first time coming to the live stream, I'm Perry Gruber. That was Jill Dell. We're both running this live stream called Devil's Advocate. Usually we ask tough questions and talk about the answers to those tough questions. Today we're taking a little departure and we're talking about the underlying ideas that make copiosis fun to implement and the underlying ideas that make people free as a result of copiosis being implemented. If you want to find out more about copiosis, the implementation or the transition plan and the implementation process we're using to usher the innovation into reality, you can go to this website where we have a ton of information that describes how the innovation works and answers a lot of questions we have there. And then also, if you want to find out how we're using the money that people are giving us to make copiosis a reality, or if you're interested in becoming a patron yourself, you at as little as $1 a month, as much as you want to. You can go to this website and find out how to do that. And then finally, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking that bell because by doing so, you will be notified of every new live stream we schedule and also any videos that we upload and make live. And speaking of live stream videos, we have a new live stream coming up this Saturday where I will be speaking with our political strategist, Christopher Hatton, and we'll be talking about the 7 Ds, the processes by which society is moving closer and closer to the world that Copiosis is creating. So thank you for joining us, whether you're joining us on the live stream or whether you're joining us on the recorded version. And I just want to add real quickly, TC, in listening to what you were saying before, Jill said, my friend
Mhm.
is helping a man making a stream like Netflix for free because he can. Right.
Nice.
Yeah, right? That's exactly
Nice.
what we're doing.
Nice.
We're doing it for the
That's
same reason.
exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what others are doing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, what was that called? Oh, Signal. Like a
Oh, yeah.
nonprofit created a Signal,
Yeah.
which is similar to Facebook and is doesn't collect your data and doesn't, sell it off to other people and, all of that. So, and doesn't restrict your or, censor you. So, I'm sure they, wouldn't want like pornography or something on there, but, they're not going to censor your opinions or your comments and stuff. So people are doing exactly that. So there's one thing that you said that I think we are we are asking a tough question today. And I think the tough question is, like, what is what's the purpose of life? Kind of. I mean,
Oh,
we're really kind of exploring
yeah.
what is the purpose of life?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of my life? And I would suggest, and each person certainly, you know, is it's completely free to disagree. But for myself,
Yeah.
I think it's that I need to be to know what is my true self and to follow my true self. And
Yeah.
that if I do that, that I will, create this better world for myself and everything around me, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
it is up to other people's opinion, but I will assert that the only way someone is going to really find lasting happiness and lasting freedom and joy is by doing
yes,
what you're doing, is living life
exactly.
to the best you can moment by moment, true to yourself.
True
Otherwise,
to
you're
yourself.
living someone else's life. Yeah, and you'll never
Exactly.
be
You're not
happy when
living
you're
your
doing that.
life. You're
Yeah.
not living your life.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
copiosis is designed to allow people to do that because today most people, so think about a, and I'm not even going to use, I was going to say think about a gay man, but I'm not even going to go that extreme. I'll just say think about a guy who has some sort of disfigurement, and
Hmm.
because of his disfigurement he can't work a regular job,
Okay.
but and so he can't get the income he needs in order to have his needs met, but he,
Hmm.
and he's been told all his life that he's going to be disadvantaged because of this disfigurement. But also
Right.
imagine that this guy's passion might be, for example, teaching people about the wonders of stamp collecting. And his
Okay.
mother told him that no one is going to pay you to talk about the wonders of stamp collecting. So this belief he's adopted, I can't make any money as a person talking about stamp collecting. I have this disfigurement that's going to keep me from getting a job. So what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to make ends meet? This is the belief that he ends up
Right.
asking himself, right?
Right.
He can't be his true self. His true self is, I want to talk to people about stamp collecting.
Hmm.
If he follows his passion, which is stamp collecting, I guarantee he could make a good living doing that in capitalism.
Exactly.
The problem is the world is stacked against him unless he's following his passion. Then the world gets behind him. And so
Yeah.
what we do in copiosis is we remove the barriers that keep people from being able to see that anything is possible. And it's much easier in a world where all your necessities are provided to identify what your core self
Yeah.
is and live from there than it is when you're having
Yes.
to figure out how to buy food and keep a roof over your head and uh, uh,
All the minutia.
all the minutia. And it's
All the
also
minutia.
hard. It's hard to live your authentic life when, if your authentic life potentially will get you fired from a job. I mean,
Right.
if you're a strong believer in religion, for example, and you want to talk to people about your religion all the time, you're probably not going to be, it's probably not, your employer is probably not going to be okay with you doing that at work. And
Yeah.
so, but in Copiosis, you're free to do that if you want to do that. And if you do that according to your
Right.
passions, you can get rich
Yes.
doing that. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Well, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten in trouble because I didn't um, buy into a um, a, a procedure or policy being implemented
yeah.
by the top-down management
Yep.
because I could see, uh, you know, well, there's a lot better way to doing this, and it's what I'm doing. And instead of coming to all these people that are actually doing this thing,
Yep.
you're going to some expert, somebody someplace else that doesn't really have any concept of what we're doing and every day
Yep.
to come up with some goofball idea, in my opinion. And I was the type of person that would express those my opinions and say, really, how is this gonna, why can't we do it like this, which I can prove to you I'm successful at
Yeah.
because I'm the biggest producer in your office and I have the most customer satisfaction of anyone in this office. And I'm able to do more than anybody else in this office in the same amount of time. Why aren't you asking me what my process is and
Yeah.
what I'm doing and how I'm accomplishing that instead of these people that don't even have a freaking clue?
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
And
that's
doesn't,
what I would get frustrated with.
right. And that is frustrating when you have, when you believe you have a better idea and no one's listening to you, especially when you're demonstrating that the idea can work. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's kind of the powerlessness that a lot of people feel in capitalism, in
exactly,
a big
exactly.
company where they don't
Yeah,
have any real power to chart their own destiny and help other people be successful.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had another incident there where we everybody got an email that the company had decided to discontinue their pension plan. Well, their pension plan and them contributing to their pension plan is an income stream
Yeah.
and a benefit,
Yeah.
and they just took it away. Nobody said a word.
No employee said it. Really?
Nobody said a word. Nobody discussed it.
Huh.
Nobody talked about it. Nobody said a word
Interesting.
except me. And I was like, kind of like, what the? How could they just do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot because we don't have a union.
Mm,
We have no power.
mm,
We're just minions.
mm.
Shut up and get to work.
Yeah. So this is the nature of
Yeah,
the capitalist system, and so
exactly.
this is
Exactly.
why so many people are frustrated. This is why so many people marched on the White House. I mean, it's more than just Trump fanning flames. Trump was
Exactly.
Trump was kind of brilliant in the sense that he knew the sentiment of a certain public of Americans, and he
Yes.
pushed those buttons. But the buttons were already there. He didn't create
Oh,
anything
yeah.
new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was already
Well, I
pumped
would
up
say the
frustration.
Democrats have done the same thing.
That's
They've pushed all
yes,
the,
that's right.
all the buttons in a different group of
That's
people
exactly right.
so that they could go, yeah, and he could push his button so he can go, yeah, and this is the
That's right.
way and that's the way,
That's
and
right.
you know,
That's right.
yeah,
In
and so
Copiosis,
and all of it's such bullshit
well, that's the thing,
when it doesn't even address the root of the problem.
right? And in Copiosis, it's not possible to push people's buttons in that way because people have enough time
Exactly.
to know, to learn whether or not
Yes.
what you're saying is real. Yeah.
And the I the amount of information that is hidden from us
Yeah.
is exponentially greater than I would say we only have access to maybe 2% of the incredible amount of information.
And
My
not
daughter,
just the government, by the way.
oh
Just
no, no, no,
think
no,
about all the corporations that have
all the
information that aren't sharing.
corporations, all
Yeah,
the businesses,
yeah,
all, healthcare
yep,
fields.
yep,
I
yep,
mean, just, anyway.
yeah.
Um, my daughter said, and the other interesting thing is that we've put everything, um, more and more things are becoming digital.
Yeah.
So you can't go to the library and look at, you know, a book or something that has, federal reports and stuff that you can look at, or 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 even, the latest medical information isn't printed in books anymore. It's all digital. It's all online.
Well,
And so if you don't,
sorry, that's a good segue to because we're almost out of time, but that's a good
yeah,
segue
yeah,
to the fact that this is exactly what we're going to be talking about on Saturday at 9 Pacific time in the morning with Christopher Hatton. We're going to be
right,
talking about the digitization of information. And yes, it's true that today it might seem harder to find that information, but in the near future, all of that information is going to be much more readily available. So uh, thank you, folks who have watched the live stream live. And for those of you who are watching it after the fact in the recording, thank you too for watching. This has been Devil's Advocate with Jill Dell and myself, Perry Gruber, the founder of Copiosis. Tune in next week. We'll be having another interesting topic. This topic was interesting, answering the question of what is the purpose of life. I hadn't thought of it
yeah,
that way, but that's what we've talked
yeah.
about this hour, and we're always talking about something interesting on this show. So please feel free to join us every Monday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and subscribe to our channel so that you get the updates when we post a new live stream or a new video. And then also, if you want to know more about Copiosis, please go to these websites where you can find out all about our innovation, our transition plan, and how we're moving that transition plan forward. Once again, this is Perry Gruber and Jill Dell. Thank you very much for watching us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Be joyful.